This is from an unknown source of coffee.
Yeah, we're not getting paid. So
Nah, we're not.
I'm looking for that Black Rifle sponsorship that they seem to hand out.
This is from Moonbucks.
Yeah, we need Black Rifle and the ball shaving guys.
Oh, Manscaped.
Manscaped.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, please sponsor us. We need the money.
We need, yeah.
Yeah.
This is a slow grind here.
Oh my gosh.
We got our fancy new setup here, but apparently our table is lacking.
I know, it's so small. Welcome to another episode of Modify with Trick Factory Customs. If this is your first time watching, we're a custom shop, a custom car building shop here in Coquitlam, BC. We make a lot of really cool cars, and every week we just talk about things that are on our mind of different topics about modifications or random car things. So with that said, I'm just gonna start out. My name is Elvis.
Tim?
Spencer?
Noise. And if this is your first time watching, you guys can watch this on YouTube actually. So you can watch this on YouTube at Trick Factory Customs, and you can see us, but you can also listen to this on any of the podcast platforms that you listen to, Spotify, Apple Music, all of that. Cause no, not Apple Music, Apple Podcasts. Yes. So yeah, with that said, we're just gonna get started. I just want to kind of just give a some brief information about what we're talking about today. And so it's gonna be on the topic of
Getting into our industry.
yes, getting into the car industry. Or
Yeah,
the
a bunch
custom
of
car
different
building
sort of
industry.
Sort of identifying the different inroads into our industry.
And and so if you guys haven't seen Spencer, he's gonna dive into things about himself. So it's gonna be fun. But before we get started into the topic of today, let's just get started with what have you guys been up to all week?
Oh, this was a rough one. We're
Okay.
still working on Lambos, so he probably has more to say about it than I do, but that's sort of been our focus for the week, so not super exciting. That's been, we've just been working through that. So
Okay.
it's had its challenges, but we're getting there.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can't wait to see. It's been really cool to see all the progress, and I'm sure, like Spencer, you're gonna talk.
I don't
about
think
it,
Spencer
but-
feels like
No,
there's
I
a
know.
lot.
I think it's been cool. So yeah, what have you been working on?
So Brett and I have spent the last 2 weeks or so tearing down the Urus, just stripping down to the shell, bare shell, like pulling the wiring harness. We pulled the motor. All of us did.
Wow.
It's been a big undertaking.
Yeah,
The results are going to be cool, but it's been a tough road getting
yeah.
there.
Like getting there. That's the
So
a lot
far,
of the work.
yeah, I think this is probably the biggest project I've started in my short career.
Wow.
Yeah, just German. I guess these cars, like the wiring harness, there's miles of wiring. Remembering, labeling all these parts and pieces, pulling the dash out of a Lamborghini, let alone pulling dashes out. For me, I haven't done that too many times.
Yeah.
So to do it on a Lamborghini is pretty intensive.
I think the Lamborghini part is stressing these guys out.
I think that's for sure, because if it was a Honda Civic, sure, no problem.
Yeah.
I'd say probably the hardest part of this project for me, because I have a lot more experience in it, is convincing that these guys are capable of doing it. I'd spend more time pep talking them because it's a Lamborghini than actually working on it.
I know. I've heard you be like, "Oh, it's fine, guys. It's fine." It's pretty much. It's interesting because a lot of the Lamborghini Urus, which we're working on now, is mostly an Audi. Underneath, there's some Lamborghini specific parts, but for the most part, it's Audi.
A lot of Audi, a lot of Volkswagen parts.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
so it's getting over that sort of mental hump and then getting into it. Because if we brought an Audi RS7 in, there'd be no hesitation.
Yeah.
Everybody would be all in it. But because it says Lamborghini, it's like a bit, it's a little bit stressful.
A little bit of intimidation.
Because
but,
where you come from as a kid, Lamborghini is like
It's like the pinnacle of
pinnacle. Like, and then
car.
it's always been played up that there's like some guy in white gloves named Giuseppe, and he's the only guy that can work on it. Like, you got to have Lamborghini tools. Like, I had a customer one time that I worked on his Ducati. He's like, "Do you have Ducati tools?" Like, come on, man. It's not like that.
Yeah,
but
sorry, you can't touch my
that's the
bike without
perception
Ducati.
that people have about that kind of stuff. So, but I mean, you do have to take extra care, but it's still just a car in the end.
It's funny, yeah. The stress is true, and like, oh man, Lamborghini. Like, certain things are a little bit new to me, but then that kind of mindset I have, like, oh, the unknown. But we've gone this far already, and then in hindsight, even just over the past 2 weeks, like, oh, it's just like a normal car, Like once you take off all the cosmetic Lamborghini pieces, it's like it's made in Slovakia somewhere. You're just like, oh, okay, this is normal. Yeah. It's so just funny. The procedure is still kind of the same once you get down to like the bare bones of the body and the structure and all that stuff. So, and these newer cars, they're not just as simple as basic spot welds, and the structure is not the same as certain cars. It's all rivet bonded and stuff. So, removing that and trying to not hack certain areas up is a little bit it just takes a little bit more time, a little bit more care. And it's aluminum as well, so a little bit
different from steel,
working with steel.
So once you get into it, you can see a justification for the expense of these vehicles.
I see what you mean,
because there is so many more layers to it that make it what it is.
It's not just on the surface.
It's not just on the surface. It goes right down deep, so there's a lot of layers.
That's pretty cool. Because sometimes it's interesting, or it's very interesting to see the prices of all these cars, the Lambos and all that stuff, and sometimes you ask yourself, like, is this actually worth it, or am I just paying for a brand name?
I'd say that it goes pretty deep.
That's pretty cool. Okay.
So like once you pull the veil back, it's like you get why it costs so much, because just the way it's manufactured and the amount of layers that they go to make it as strong as it does, and then just the engineering in it. It's like, for me, that's an exciting part, of seeing how they did things and like how smart it actually is.
That's pretty cool.
And just seeing, like, because we have to put these cars back together, just understanding and like the reverse engineering process, especially because like I started out through learning collision and stuff, so seeing how they design these cars, because most of the body's aluminum, and where they implement steel and where the stronger aluminum is, and understanding why the rail sits in certain areas, and why certain panels overlap. It's like, okay, this is, you get what you pay for, really. Like, you kind of see how these things are put together and why they're so safe. And especially you see some salvage auctions of these cars and like crazy accidents, but the general shape is still there,
intact. That's
and what these cars, like this, if you're riding off a Lamborghini, dude, you're ripping, you know what I mean? Like, you're going fast.
And these guys are walking away from it. Literally, so that's a testament to how strong these cars are.
Just kind of,
it's like,
Lamborghini, like, it's nuts.
Which is also interesting too, because I feel like I've started seeing a lot of crashed Lambos recently.
Because ultimately, regardless of the size of the brakes, you got your 16-inch carbon rotors. It's still only as good as your tires. It's like there's a point of contact on the road, so it's like these guys the cars are super capable, but you're still, you're only as strong as the weakest point, which is the tires. And then these guys are crashing them up all the time. Plus, it's a massively heavy vehicle.
It is.
Like this particular one, but I mean, the same thing applies to all these other cars. Like, you just overdrive it and you got problems. And you get used to all the fail safes that are built into them. So you think you're good until you turn all that stuff off, and then you realize you suck.
Driver mod.
Driver mod. Okay, so that's pretty awesome. And just jumping off of that tangent, and what we're going to be talking about today, of finding help or work and all of that stuff. How in the world do you find good help or good work or good workers? Because it's not just them willing to do the work. There's a lot more.
Like you manage our social media for us, so you see how many kids that are looking for an inroad into what we do. But it's super hard, because like at our level right now, you have to have such a broad range of skills, but you need some sort of base skill to even get you in the door for me to start showing you these other things, or somehow you have had to garnish all these skills someplace else. So for me to get people is a struggle, but now sort of the evolution of the business is like, now I'm starting getting people to specialize in a single thing, and then so we can get more done, because literally finding somebody like myself that's come up all the way through is like a unicorn, like, because you just can't really do it. Like, it's not like now these collision techs like are taught a very specific thing. So they've segmented all these things to a point now where like you have so many specialists,
Yeah.
but not really even mechanics now. They're not really mechanics, they're technicians. And then it's like they plug in the computer and it tells them to replace the part. So they can't really fix anything, they just replace.
I see.
So it's like finding somebody that's from back then that had to fix stuff and troubleshoot and all these kind of things without all these different computer aids is hard to find. Like it's super hard to find. Because now even in school they're being taught to specialize. Like you have a painter and then you have an auto body tech and then you have a tuner.
So there's no like general.
Tuner doesn't even know how to build the motor. He just knows how to tune it. That's it. So it's like everything's getting so segmented that it's hard to find people for our industry that can do a little bit of everything. So you got to find like our guys are like legitimate automotive enthusiasts. They want to learn how to do everything themselves. So I have to find those guys because I can't just bring in a body tech. Like I bring in these guys and they're stressed out. I'm like, just do this. They're like, I've never done that before. Like, okay, well, let me show you. So it's like you have to find somebody that has a passion for it and then start building them up because they don't have the training for it. Like they're trained within a very specific thing, so it's tough.
So speaking of training for it, like how did you get started, Spencer? Because
I'm actually pretty new in the trade relatively. I think I started about 2018.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah. I had an opportunity in my life at the time to kind of start change my path, I guess. So
Well, what were you doing before?
I'll tell you later.
Okay.
Basically, I had the opportunity to kind of start something fresh, what I wanted to do. And like, I've always grown up liking cars, but I never came from a background of mechanics or cars or anything, being Chinese. Like, this is just not a thing, right? You just go to school and you do math and stuff. Right? and during that time, I was able to, okay, you know what? I like cars. Let's, look at the industry as a whole. Like, what are my options? And I really enjoyed car detailing because when you're young and you get your first car, all you want to do is wash it and, put LED lights in it and do all these kid things to it. And that is kind of something I always like at cosmetics, right?
Yeah.
I like mechanical work, but I had a lot of friends who went through the apprenticeship as a mechanic, as a service tech. And that's a tough grind, right? And all apprenticeships are, but just seeing those guys be in the oil pit for
Doing
2 years.
Oil changes for 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years
Yeah.
making $9 an hour, and you just and then do that, and then you get to do breaks after. And
Yeah.
that grind is really, really hard. And I just didn't. I seen a lot of people get taken advantage of too, right? And like that kind of steered me away from it right off the bat. So
Interesting.
I was like, you know what? Let's do collision work. Like I like auto body. It's something I like to do, cosmetics and whatnot. So I started off going to school at VCC, did the apprenticeship program, and that I wasn't too young, but I wasn't really that old. But I still had, I was a little bit one of the older ones in the class, so I had a little bit of a drive, a little bit more of a work ethic. So the instructor seen that, and right off the bat, I think I excelled just in school. And in my first year, I was recommended for a position at a dealership. I guess the recruitment from the workforce, they kind of go through the schools and they pick out a few of the good ones, right? And through there, started off as an apprentice, just out in the workforce. And I think early on, probably in your first 1 to 2 years, you get taken advantage of as an apprentice, right? Like that's just the way the game is. And it kind of weeds out people who are actually into it by passion, or if you're there just to, work and make money, because it's a tough trade. Like it's, especially in your apprenticeship, like you do all the dirt, you're doing all the hard work. And I can say that if I didn't do it because of, if my drive wasn't from passion,
You would have quit.
yeah, because sometimes it's just not worth it, right? Like just the way certain employers treat you, and steering away from a dealership was a big one, because it's a big corporation. They kind of have all these structures implicated. to keep you as long as they can as an apprentice at the lowest wage, right?
Really? Oh, wow. Okay.
And then, so I steered away from that and I went into more mom and pop shops, because at a dealership, if you're good at one thing, so I had a brief job as an auto glass tech when I was really young.
Okay.
So when I joined the dealership in the body shop, one of the things I brought to the table was auto glass. So they're, oh, this guy knows auto glass. Like, let's start an auto glass department. And then they're like, and then that's all I was doing for a while. And then I'm like, man, I didn't want to do this, right? And because I really wanted to get better as a collision tech, and there's unlimited things to learn, right? And I had to step away and go into a mom and pop shop where it was smaller. I had more responsibility to take on more tasks and learn. And then from there, I kind of realized, I'm like, hey, I'm able to do so much. I kind of want to just now narrow it down to enthusiast cars, because maybe I'm a little bit of a brat. I only like to do what I like to do, like I don't want to do Kias. I want to do your M3, right?
Yeah.
And
passion. You're passionate about it.
And from there, I left one shop, and then I narrowed it down to even a smaller shop where it was just me. I was still an apprentice, but I was the one tech on the floor, and I work with the painter hand in hand. And I think that's where I gained a lot of experience, because I didn't have a mentor kind of working alongside with me, but I still had to kind of keep the workflow and the production going, right? And that's another thing that also tied in with, the passion drive, right? If it was just money, it wasn't worth it, because I had to take on so many more responsibilities than just be an apprentice and clock out at 5 o'clock, right? And through there, I was able to learn a lot of ins and outs, and you pick up your work habits, clean up, sweep the floors, and building that character to become a good technician, right? And after working there for a while and really enjoying working on enthusiast cars, I realized it's a tough trade. And by the end of it, even for me, I wasn't sure if I wanted to continue anymore, because especially in the Lower Mainland, like the insurance monopoly with ICBC, the hours they pay you for the job was just getting lower and lower.
Wow.
Always fighting with what you deserve and what you work for. So I had to look at other options. And when I went back my last year of school to write my Red Seal exam and finish my apprenticeship, my teacher at the time, who's also Brett's mentor.
Oh.
Yeah, he's a close friend of the shop.
That's pretty cool. If you don't know who Brett is, he pretty much works here as well.
He's our painter.
Yes, he paints and
Spencer
helps
and
Spencer and
work
body
together.
work. Yeah, and so we'll have him on.
So it's kind of funny how that worked. And then I had a talk with him, and I'm like, hey, listen, like, I don't know what I want to do. Like, the money sucks. I really love cars. Like, where can I kind of fit in this weird kind of area, right? Like, I don't want to go back to a dealership. Is it right to start my own detailing shop, because it's less work and kind of more of what I like to do. And he said, hey, listen, go stop by and check these guys out. I know they need some help and they're looking for guys. I rolled by literally just out of the blue with a resume. I came through a recommendation from him, and now here I am, right? And the way this industry works is like, even before here, probably every shop I've worked at since my first job at the dealership in 2018, I didn't even use a resume.
Oh, okay.
I rolled up, and for me, it's just like, if I can even have a good conversation with my employer right off the bat and kind of sense what kind of person he is, or what the environment, what the vibe is, right? And then if that, gets a check mark, the next thing for the employer to do is really just to throw you in the pit and see what you're capable of. Because on paper, as an apprentice, everyone is almost the same, right?
I see.
Oh yeah, I was an apprentice here, I was a body tech here, and everyone is the same, right? But at the end of the day, like, can you do this X, Y, and
that you
Z,
said you can do?
Right. So
this interview consisted of him showing up. I don't know what I was doing, but I was like, oh, okay, cool. We looked outside, like, oh, he's got a cool car.
What did you come with?
I was driving my E30.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It's like, so there's a check mark for me. I was like, let's give him a try. You suck. And I think I told him, I'm like, you can try here. If you suck, we'll get rid of you.
Oh my
if we
gosh.
suck, you can get rid of us. That's the end of it.
And I know I don't suck. So.
That's so funny.
and that was it. And really, the first kind of 3 months probably was I hit the ground running here. I'd say, you know, I had a little bit of experience doing, so a lot of the stuff that's done here, the custom work, the body kits, is fiberglass work. I've done a little bit of fiberglass work, and you know, I'm pretty good at learning and retaining information. So right off the bat, one of the first things was to chop that 996
The wing on my slant.
But the original wing was from a 993, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like the turbo whale tail, and what we had to do was widen it to fit the 996 wide body kit.
Okay.
And I was kind of like, yeah, no problem. No problem. It's cool. I got it.
Well, you've never done anything like that before.
If anybody's wondering how much of a wing on my car cost,
it's
the most expensive spoiler we've ever made. So he finished out he started his new apprenticeship on that wing.
So, and if you guys want to know what we're talking about, you can go check out the YouTube video at Chick Factory Customs. Again, if you've forgotten, we make videos of all the cars that we work on. And so Tim has a Porsche 996 with a slant nose wide body kit that has been very famous on the internet for being, people have their own,
very
own
polarizing.
Yeah, that's right.
But I love the wing. I think that was, when I saw it, I was like, wait, is that it took me a while to look at it, and I was like, oh shoot. And
I think it's because you
so
can't
good.
reference it to anything is what makes it that polarizing.
Yeah.
Because especially Porsche guys, it's like they have a very specific aesthetic of what they think is cool, and it's sacred. You can't mess with it. But I messed with it, and it made some people upset.
Yeah. So how was that, like, that your first project? Like, how did it turn out? Expectations versus...
I think I would say we hit all the boxes, right?
He's like looking at it.
It's a steep learning curve for him.
But that was like a probably like a sink or swim kind of scenario. And I don't think it was something that I wasn't capable of doing. It was just a little bit of a learning curve, right? Like the procedure was a little bit the same.
I think that the biggest struggle, and Brett had this in the past too, is as a collision tech, you know what it needs to look like.
Okay.
Because you're putting it back to the way it was. And when you're doing custom, you don't have anything, especially us, because I try to make it so that it doesn't resemble anything else. Like you can't really reference it to it so that it's something new. So trying to create something from nothing with no reference is super difficult, because I have a vision in my head, but he may interpret the information I give him completely differently. So it's tough. Like a lot of people struggle with it.
Yeah.
So like even customers, that's why we do a lot of like, you know, foam prototypes and like try to do something 3D, or we 3D print it and show them, because they can't necessarily visualize it the same way I can. Like I can explain it to you 10 times and you'll have 10 different versions of what you think I told you. So it's the same when I'm trying to, you know, reiterate things to these guys. So now, like yourself, we're trying to get into more actual proper renders, so it's easy to convey that information. Yeah. Because their training is all make it look like the way it did.
The way it was intended.
So it's like there's no real creativeness in that industry. Like it's not something that's, you know, that's taught. Yeah. Like they're not, it's like, no, you stay
just make it look
make it exactly the same as it was.
Yeah. That's interesting, because, and it's cool you mentioned that too, because Rob, which is another one of the owners at Chick Factory Customs, he's not here now, he's on vacation. But he started using Sketchbook on his iPad, and that makes it so cool to see what it's supposed to look like.
That's made a huge change for us, like a massive change, because the dynamic has always been like, he's very artistic, whereas I'm more methodical and has to work. So the blend of the two of us turns out great, because, we have like such a long-standing relationship that he understands what I explain to him, and then he's able to draw it, and then everybody can understand it. So now taking it to the next level and using Sketchbook and actually making proper 3D renders has made it so much easier. Yeah. Especially for everybody else in the shop, because I got some wild idea and it's like, no, everyone just stares at me. So it's a
Brett
bit
is
of a
like, are you sure?
But Brett's he's the best, because he'll just be like, I don't even know what I'm doing right now. And then it'll get to a point And it's happened a million times, and I have to like pep talk them every single time. And then it gets to a point, it's like, oh man, this looks sick. I'm like, I know, like I've known the whole time. But it's just like, you got to get them there. And then once it starts to come together, then, so that's a big struggle, is trying to get us all on a single vision. So I think now with doing the renders, and it's going to make it a lot easier.
Yeah. And talk to me a little bit about not just finding people, but the right, I don't know, the people that work with, not just because I know some people you've hired, for example, they probably know how to do it well. They're amazing, but like their personality doesn't work with you.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Like we talk about it a lot, especially for us, because this is basically my life. So there's a lot of people that are super talented in a single thing, but just depending on the way they present that is like a make or break for me, because I don't want that vibe in the shop. And it's like, we all work really well together. So if you have a base that I can work with, I would be more inclined to hire your personality than I am necessarily your skill set. Because I can work on your skill set, but if you're an asshole, you're an asshole. Like, I can't fix that. So it's like, as soon as I see somebody's sort of starting like a little bit of a toxic, I don't care how good you are, I'll get rid of you, because I'm not going to lose 4 guys because of 1 guy. So it's like, I've had that situation come a couple of different times, and those people are always the one that are kind of like give you an ultimatum. And here I just won't have it. It's like, you give me ultimatum, which I learned from my boss, is like, if, like, nope, you're out. Because I can't deal with it. So we keep it pretty tight, because everybody has to work together. And there's so many layers, and everybody's kind of waiting on the other guy. So if you're not able to have a conversation and be like, hey, where are you at? When are we going to be able to get to this? It's going to be chaos all the time. You're fighting everybody. And if you have one guy that thinks he's better than the other guy, it never works out. Which is the single biggest, because there's lots of talented guys. But the guy that comes to tell you how talented he is like right away a red flag for me. It's like, I don't mind paying you whatever, like if you're good, just be good, but you don't have to be better than somebody else. Like, don't come explain to me and tell me why you're so much better than this guy. Just tell me you're good. Like, hey, here's my work. I'm super good at this. I want to do this. Then I can work with it. And that's kind of how, like, everyone sort of specializes in something now. So, but they're also willing to jump in. Like, I got Brett painting cars, and he gets a whole bunch of accolades from people like, bro, that's sick. But he'll just as easily like, hey, can you give that a wash really quick for the customer to come pick it up? No problem. Like, that's the kind of guy you want, rather than like, I'm not washing a car. Like, me, man. Like, take it easy. So like, even that's something I learned from my old boss, is like, I'm over here fabricating $1 million equipment, and then it's like, oh, there's nothing to do. Can you sweep the floor? I don't care. I get paid the same. I treated it like a break. Like, oh, yeah, no problem. You want to pay me this much to sweep the floor? I'll sweep the floor all day. So that's the kind of attitude that you're looking for.
The way things are in the shop, it's small enough to know almost what everyone is thinking.
That's good.
That's one thing I like about working in a small shop. So you don't have to always constantly ask questions, or like, oh, what do I do next? And like, you don't want to look stupid sometimes too, right? So,
but is it difficult for you to ask questions of like, oh crap, I don't know how to do this?
No, not at all.
No, okay.
No, I was never afraid to ask questions, because if there's something I don't know and I don't ask, who's the stupid one, right?
What's like your favorite project that you've worked on so far being here? Because we've worked on, I think, quite a bit of stuff. Like, even I've been here for about a year, and you've been here before me, and it's like, there's been so many things. So if you could just like spitball, like which one has been your favorite project?
Oh, it's a tough one. It's between the two 996s, the Milesworks car and Tim's car.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I feel like those were also one of the most challenging too, no?
It can be. It could have been. It could have been so far. It wasn't that challenging, though, I don't think.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of balanced out by the end result, though. Those are the most dramatic, I would say.
Yeah. I think because I have a little bit of car enthusiast in me, right? I like Porsche, and to see these two cars, like, to understand what a slant nose is, and then to see like a crazy wide body 996, like, I think
so cool.
Yeah, and I've never seen anything like that before, especially in the 996 chassis, right? I think those are the two. I think I like Tim's because we fit, we're almost, I get to see the rewarding part of a completed car almost, right? Seeing the interior together, seeing it painted, and The wing.
Yeah. The wing is so sick.
The $12,000 wing.
I would say actually the wing is probably my favorite
Oh,
project.
okay. Yeah.
Because I tried really hard on that, and it showed. I'd say
Yeah.
it's really cool. It's really unique. Yeah, and it's functioning, right? That's another cool part of it.
It's interesting because I haven't seen you with a modified, like super modified car yet. Like you would think because you're like, oh, you work on like crazy bodies, wide body this, wide body that you would have done something to your car. So like, do you have any plans to like do something crazy to any of the cars you have?
Well, just being where we live, it kind of sucked the fun out of it. I think before we met, I've had probably like 20 something cars now.
Oh yeah, another thing about Spencer is he switches cars like I go through shirts. I feel like.
Yeah, my last car was I'd never got into body kits really that much because I spent a lot of time as an apprentice. You know, money's a thing, right?
It's tight, yeah.
But you know, being where we live, you know, I'm not going to dive too deep into it, but it's hard to drive a modified car around.
Yeah,
They make it difficult here.
yeah. I feel like we should also make that another episode of like modified cars, driving a modified cars, what it takes to do that in this area.
Yeah.
You can't.
Vancouver / BC.
They suck all the fun out
all
of
of that.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also if I have like I like to daily drive almost everything, and it's hard to daily drive a modified car sometimes, whether it's like maintenance or cops,
Yeah.
or even
Or the
weather.
extra things you even did to it too.
Or the extra things like my E30 is a convertible, and it's older. It's I don't know, for some reason the Euro spec, they didn't have air conditioning, so you think it's a dope car like an E30 convertible, but there's no AC, so it's too hot in the summer.
And it rains all the time.
Rains all
Foggy in the
time.
winter.
Foggy in the winter. It's just I don't know. It's just not. I've only driven it a handful of times in the summer, so I think it's just that car is more nice to look at rather than to cruise in. And so I guess all I'm doing to that car really is because I'm a bit of a nerd too, and like I try to keep it in like a little bit of a purist world.
Yep.
So I'm just doing a little bit of a motor swap on it, but no kit.
No
yet.
wide body anything. No.
I don't know, man. I don't.
This guy
plan
wants
these
a wide
things.
body everything. You would wide body the shop van if you could.
That would actually be sick.
Oh my God.
Dude, let's do it. Absolutely.
That's my only reliable
Wide
vehicle.
body shop van. Come on,
Yeah,
like,
I
just
can't do
imagine it with
What a-
like Mickey Thompson's,
Yeah,
like
no.
fat, meaty boys.
I
No.
think that
Oh.
this conversation and these types of conversations might be the only time, you know, there's some kind of disagreement or we can't understand we're not on the same page.
No, man.
Yeah. Oh, that's so funny.
So
Yeah.
yeah, for now.
We have too many things to finish to be starting anything new.
So true.
Like our lineup is, it's
It's
long.
a lot. Yeah. And so before we end, anything else you want to add? Because I feel like
think so.
I feel like we've I don't know how long. I'm gonna guess like
We didn't
30-ish
really talk
minutes.
about what it's like to work here for one of these guys, but we can save that for another one when we have Brett.
Oh, true.
That would be
Okay.
good, yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be interesting. That would be fun.
Because I'm sure it's an adventure.
Every day it's somewhat of an adventure here,
Yeah.
for sure. But that's what I like about, you know, I've been here for about a year now, and it was a complete like 180 from, you know, coming from the collision world, because you're kind of in the collision world, you're kind of programmed to do one thing, and it's just repetition all the time. Like there was a time in my last collision shop, I was juggling like 3 or 4 CRVs. Like
Oh.
it was cool because I was fast at it, but it's not sick. You know what I mean?
And it's the
not
same
fun.
car
I'm
over and over again.
That's the kind of part where it was like just depleting the energy every day. God, do I still want to, like, this is my life, right? Like I'm just doing fucking CRVs now, right? Like
At least now you can go say you work on Lambos and
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
yeah,
There's some value in that alone.
That's very, very, very true.
yeah. So
It
just
still sucks though, but
Oh,
at
yeah.
least it's a lot cooler to say.
yeah. I mean, it doesn't suck that bad. It's like. It's pizza. Like shitty pizza is still pretty good. You know what I mean? Yeah. Tearing apart a Lamborghini, it's not a fun job, but it's still pretty good.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I would rather do that
Than CRV.
just to be a Kia expert or something.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
And also with the challenging aspect of everything we do here. I find that it keeps me. That's part of the drive that I have too. So
That's pretty good.
it's been good so far.
Awesome. So far.
It's gonna get worse, man.
But if it gets worse, that means it's still pretty good, right? 'Cause
Hey,
we're already-
that's-
The projects just get
Crazier and crazier.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, I'm excited for the projects that are to come and what you guys are also working on. It'll be cool to see. So if you want to check any of that out, go to our YouTube channel. All the builds are documented there, and you can see more of Spencer and Brett doing their thing.
Yeah.
So with that said, thank you guys so much for watching this episode. We will catch you guys later. Like and subscribe. I almost forgot about that. If you like
Don't
this
forget
video,
that
give
part.
it a thumbs up. We need
We need
that.
to expand our podcast
Yes.
setup with
Yeah,
slow
it's
evolution.
brand
here.
new mics.
Yeah.
Brand new glorious mics. So let us know how we sound. Okay. Have an amazing day. Bye.